Well, it's been a big week, so let's wrap it up and get a summary of what's been going on. Pete McGuire from XM joins us now to chat. Pete, always love having you on the trade. Look, sum up this week for us. It's been a big one, hasn't it? Monday we were talking about a correction. It looked like a bear market. As a trader, how do you kind of move your sentiment, look at your positions and make sure that you're covered?
Well, I think, Kara, the most important thing is take on board all of the fundamental news that really sweeps across the market with 5 or so central banks meeting. And what you've got to be conscious of is the market doesn't sleep. So it's open 24 hours a day. It's not as though the equity market finishes at 4 o'clock. The currency markets just keep on going. And so that creates times over that period, over that 4-day window, that you can be long and short many times due to all of that different news coming through. And we've had Evergrande, we've had the Fed, had the Bank of England, Bank of Japan, they're looking for a new Prime Minister. We've had an election this week with Trudeau just coming in, pipping the post and getting first place in Canada. And of course, you've got the election this weekend in Germany. So all of those big, I think, simmering pots on the stove need to take a time over that week to dial up the gas, and then other times you're backing it off a little.
All right, so what has been the trade of the week for you then? What has been on your screens?
Well, I think it's got to be a couple of things. First off, if I look over the last 12 to 24 hours, you'd say US equities have had a really nice uptick. You'd say the US dollar's come under a little pressure to the downside. Aussie's been up. Also, crude oil, I can't believe it. I mean, I sit here and just gasp. We're at 73.30 for WTI. We're at 77.20 for Brent this morning. So that really creates a different framework from an inflation point. I also think that US dollar may come under a little bit of pressure to the downside.
Pete, let's dive into that WTI price and have a look at one of the charts that you've been looking at. I mean, as you said, it's been pretty crazy out there. As a trader, what would you be looking at the moment?
Well, I think that it's just that momentum story. I worry about a couple of things. I worry about the inflation spike. I worry about how do you settle the crude oil energy markets over where they've just been parabolic over the last couple of weeks. It's been dramatic from that $60 lows that we saw at 62 or so. It's been one-way traffic up 20%. So that momentum, I think, will continue. You can see it on the chart there. It's still looking very, very bullish. And that possibly is where we are over the next month. Though you've got to also take on board, if there's no geopolitical shocks, I'm worried about Evergrande. I'm worried about a lot of those different external factors that can affect the crude market. But we had a very big push up overnight with copper up 3.5%. Could be good for the miners over here, and a number of the other base metals were well bid up, so that'll carry crude a little bit higher as well.
Pete, let's have a look at some of the performances of the currencies. You've got a daily performance chart for us to have a look at this afternoon. Walk us through, I mean, what pairs have been active this week? Where have your positions been?
Well, I think that US dollar Kiwi, as it shows there, Kara, was really hot. So was the Aussie, Euro. It's been a very, very solid week for currency traders. And that has shown, due to those central bank meetings, really big opportunities and that big sell-off as far as the Canadian dollar. So it had a big spike early in the week, and then it's come and it's tailed off. So as I mentioned, 5 days a week it opens and it doesn't close. So those opportunities present themselves over that window, and I think that you'll probably see not a bad over the next, say, 12 hours leading up to that Friday night close in New York, about 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock Sydney time on Saturday. Probably more opportunities for those currency traders. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Kiwi and the Aussie creep a little bit higher from here.
And kind of medium term, Pete, as a trader, you're looking for more volatility?
Yeah, I think so. I'm worried about, as I mentioned, Kara, that Evergrande story. That concerns me. They've been given a 30-day grace. Was supposedly going to sort that out yesterday, but they've been given a 30-day grace. I noticed the government saying just pay the bondholders, so obviously they've got to try and get some debt funding somehow, somewhere. 600,000 homes a year they build, electric vehicles, theme parks. So all of that included really creates, I think, turbulence leading into the next quarter because of the uncertainty how many other Evergrandes there are out there. I recall Jim Chanos, that famous hedge fund king many years ago, probably saying maybe 3 or 4 years ago, he's very worried about the Chinese debt market as far as property. Maybe it's all coming home to roost at the moment.
Well, with that in mind then, Pete, let's have a look at the euro and have a look at a chart that you've provided for us. I mean, what levels would you be looking at when trading that against the greenback?
Well, I think you can see that movement. It's had a very, very solid push down. So maybe you're looking around that, 116.50, 117. I think that as you can see those moving averages and all of those concerns, possibly a little bit further push to the downside. So that's where we're looking at the moment, a 116.50. That chart says a lot, because you can see it's valleys and peaks all the way through, and that continuance. And for the traders out there, that blue line is a 200-day moving average. You've got a 20-day and you've got a 40-day. I need new glasses, I think, Kara. But as you know, you've certainly been around the traders long enough, and your expertise, you can see where technical traders look for opportunities. They look for the fundamentals, of course. They look for the seasonality as far as religious festivals or other, different announcements coming through over that calendar year. But the technical analysts live and breathe charts, and they have multiple charts open for each position. And at the moment, you can see that there's possibly further money to be made on that one.
Pete, I also know that you're having a look at the Kiwi dollar. We've had a chat with a lot of analysts over the past few weeks talking about parity when it comes to Aussie Kiwi. But let's maybe have a look at the Kiwi dollar. I mean, RBNZ in focus as well, but just sitting just below that 71 handle at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. We expected that, well, I think many analysts expected, I'll rephrase that, this time last month you were looking, Karen, that you were going to see a 50-point basis, it was 25, it was nearly baked in, and then they said there's a big chance you're going to see a 50, and then nothing happened. So that really, I think, shook the market a little bit. But if you can imagine if Kiwis would have jumped at 50, I think we would be parity, that even the Kiwi might be stronger than the Aussie. So, yeah, it's narrowing that gap between the two. It's sitting there at the moment. You're looking at around about that 70.65. We're at around about 73, or just under. So it's closing the gap. Let's see what the Kiwi does over the next month or two as far as rate rises, and whether they jump before Christmas. So that'll probably add more fuel to the fire as far as the strength of that Kiwi, and not a bad market for trade.
Pete, how are you positioned in sterling at the moment? It climbed a big figure higher overnight post Bank of England, and it kind of looks like it wants to push a bit higher, even further towards that 138 level.
Yeah, exactly. We were at 136 here. We're at about 137.25 at the moment. So there's possibly the potential to, edge up a little bit higher. I wouldn't be surprised that it does. And though the BOE have got their hands full in some ways, they're worried about energy, and they're worried about, naturally, the inflation story. So that seems to be the concern. I was speaking to some friends in London there over the last 48 hours, and it's relatively positive over there. So that's a good thing. They've come out of their summer. They're feeling still fairly bullish, and let's hope that they can have a very solid winter period and everyone's healthy and happy.
Pete, lots of trades on the table as always on this Friday. I hope you have a great weekend. Thanks so much for joining us.
All the best, Kara. Take care. Thank you.